Hello, and welcome to Senior Moments, Successful Aging. Today I'm your host, Brandon Baxter, the Family Supports Program Manager for the Area Agency on Aging, Nacog. This show is brought to you in partnership with the Area Agency on Aging, Nacog, and the Yavapai College Division of Lifelong Learning. Our producer is Nancy Bennett, and she can be reached at 928-717-7607. Today we have the pleasure of talking with Georgi Percan. Georgi is the Community Liaison for the Margaret T. Morris Center and the Adult Care Services here in Northern Arizona. Georgi is an active member in the senior community and has been working to address senior needs for the last 6 years. She's passionate and an effective advocate for seniors and helps them find resources to help meet their ever-growing needs. Georgi started a senior suicide prevention coalition in January of 2014, and it's a group of organizations and individuals dedicated to the prevention of suicide through advocacy, public education, and coordination of services. She's committed to education, providing a community of senior services and resources for all to access, with a goal of empowering and making a difference in the lives of our senior populations. Georgi, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So first and foremost, tell me a little bit about the Margaret T. Morris Center and what it specializes in, where they're located.
Well, the Margaret T. Morris Center is here in Prescott. It's at 878 Sunset Avenue, and it is an assisted living community devoted to those with memory loss. So there are many different forms of dementia. Dementia is kind of the umbrella term for diagnoses such as Alzheimer's disease, Lewy body dementia, vascular dementia, frontal temporal dementia. There's a host of different dementias that people can be diagnosed with.
And in the realm of cognitive impairment, we know that we're seems to be only scratching the surface as to the layers and layers of dementias that are available. So it's wonderful to know that there is a memory facility located here within our community that is skilled and able to help meet the needs of our community members who are dealing with this. Right. Now, we talk a lot about Alzheimer's disease and dementias and the fears that go along with a diagnosis of cognitive impairment. Now, tell me a little bit about the comfort and the peace of mind that family members can have knowing that a facility like the Margaret T. Morris Center exists within their community.
I think first and foremost, the thing that can bring comfort to families that are trying to make the decision as to whether to place their loved one in an assisted living community is that the Margaret T. Morris only deals with people with cognitive impairment. There is no independent living or assisted living. It's all memory care. And so our caregivers are kind of experts in that, because that's all they deal with day in and day out. And we also have our medical director on staff who comes to see the residents twice a week. That's Dr. Peter Powers. We have a nurse on staff 40 hours a week full time. We also have a life enrichment director who provides the residents with a wide range of different activities that go on every day. And we also have a horticultural therapist on staff who provides those activities to our residents. So it's really great. And another thing that makes us different is that we have neighborhood style living. So we don't have the long corridors with apartments off. We have neighborhoods, which are kind of like a U-shape. And there's 4 neighborhoods, and there's 2 stories to the Margaret T. Morris Center. It's 25,000 square feet. The upstairs, the residents that live up there have a more advanced diagnosis than the people that live downstairs. But nonetheless, they all live in a neighborhood, and the neighborhoods, like I said, are in a U-shape, and in the neighborhood is a kitchen and a living room, and the bedrooms surround the living room and the kitchen. So when they come out of their bedroom, they're greeted by their caregivers, fellow residents. They eat together, they watch TV together, relax together, and then they all go into the great room and participate in these wonderful activities that our life enrichment director puts on for
That's
them.
fantastic. So it sounds like a lot of thought and planning went into the development and the layout of this facility, because it looks like you're really encouraging that socialization of the individuals that you have under your care, which, as we know, when we're dealing with issues of cognitive impairment, that socialization aspect oftentimes can be one of the first things to fall away. And we also know that that has very negative health consequences long term. People are social beings. They really do need that interaction with other people. So it sounds like the Margaret T. Morris Center did put a lot of thought into the socialization aspect of their clients and the loved ones that they have within their facilities. Now, you did mention also your life enrichment director, who is involved with lots of activities, and as well as your horticulture program. It sounds like that's a wonderful way for your loved ones to continue to stay involved and to be active participants in their lives. I know some of the fears that family members can often express during this process is, well, I'm afraid my loved one is just going to go in and be forgotten about, that they're really not going to have that high of a quality of life once a placement takes place. It sounds like the Margaret T. Morris Center has really gone out of their way to make sure that their loved ones are engaged successfully and actively to not only the members of the community, but also with other programming as well, so they can feel a sense of purpose, maybe.
Right, and it's so important, their quality of life. We want to, make the best of their life while they're with us. Just because they have a dementia diagnosis doesn't mean that they are just going to sit in a chair and just watch TV. We don't do that. We have a host of activities, like you said, and socialization is very important to the residents as well as to our philosophy, our patient-centered care. So yes, we have a lot of activities. I was able to go out with the horticultural therapist, Pam Catlin, and I pushed around one of the residents in his wheelchair and pushed him up to one of the planters, because the backyard back there is just absolutely magnificent. And there's a lot of planters with a lot of different herbs and vegetables. And he had a little basket on his lap. He picked a bunch of ripe tomatoes, and then he felt so good about having that little basket full of tomatoes. And then they go in and they make salsa or spaghetti sauce or something with the things that they have picked. So it's a wonderful activity for them and for me to observe that.
Absolutely, and we know that oftentimes with horticulture therapy, the end result is not necessarily what you're after.
Right.
The seeds may not actually get planted into the soil, and the dirt may end up on the table as more of a finger painting experiment. But the exciting part about this is the engagement that is happening, that we are not just taking a look at these individuals as people who no longer have anything to offer or anything left to do. Societally, we're shifting more towards realizing there is value, even with cognitive impairment, most especially with cognitive impairment, in keeping those social skills active and alive, keeping the individuals engaged within community. And that brings me to the next point that you talked about. You talked about this neighborhood-style living, and can you maybe extrapolate a little bit more for that for me? What is the difference between neighborhood-style living and, say, for instance, some of the apartment-style living that you can find in other facilities?
I think the major concern that we see is that with apartment-style living, people don't tend to come out of their apartment. So with neighborhood-style living, they're there, they have a roommate, and when they come out of their room, there they are, right in their living room. They're eating breakfast with their resident friends. They're seeing all of their friends. They're seeing their caregivers. They're getting ready for the day. And then John comes in, the life enrichment director, and lets everybody know what activities are going on for the day. So it's very, very not involved, but just everybody is existing together, and together they're doing all kinds of activities. So it's wonderful. Really
leveraging those common areas as a gathering point to really funnel people into the activities that you have, to maybe some of the different involvement as far as maybe doing a little planting today, or maybe just coming out of your room, and even if you're not the most socially gregarious person in the world, just having the exposure to the other conversations around you, having that sense of community, really can have a huge emotional lift for that individual, can't it?
And we read about that a lot in families' letters. with the difference that they see in their loved one. You know, how thankful that they are that they see the love that these caregivers give to the residents. The doctor, Dr. Powers, he loves on those residents, you know, the nurse, all the staff, Amy, everybody knows those residents by name. The receptionist in the front, the administrative assistant, he knows the resident's name. So it's really a big family there. You know, the families know the families. So it's just wonderful.
Fantastic, and it really gives you that sense of support that oftentimes will lead to a lot of the fear that people with cognitive impairment have. They'll feel isolated or alone or left out, and having this strong support network and this social interaction really must provide a sense of comfort and peace of mind to the affected patient as well.
Right, yeah.
Wonderful.
Very important.
So what would you think are some of the main reasons why neighborhood-style living specifically is better for folks with memory loss?
I think primarily for the socialization aspect. They need that socialization. Staying alone is not going to do them any good whatsoever, because then depression and a host of different things can come into play. So the socialization aspect is imperative.
Fantastic. And we do talk about depression with cognitive impairment because oftentimes we do see those two go hand in hand. So I think it's really important for family members of the loved ones as well to be aware of that. If you have a loved one in the home who's dealing with cognitive impairment and they are maybe showing some signs of depression, it is something to keep an eye on because it can be something that can be detrimental and does affect quite a few number of people with cognitive impairment. So if you're worried that your loved one may be dealing with issues of depression, maybe it's the time to seek help and ask if there's some supportive services or resources available within your community to help you and your loved one navigate these changes.
That's right.
We also talk about why the Margaret T. Morris is not your typical assisted living community. Would you talk to me a little bit about that? How do you guys stand alone and differentiate yourselves from the other assisted living facilities within the area?
Because we are the only assisted living community devoted to those with memory loss. That's what we are. That's what we do. That's why we're experts.
So that's your specialty.
It is. Plus, in addition, we are CARF accredited, which means our assisted living community meets higher standards than the state mandates us to provide. So with those two things, we are very unique. And well, actually a third thing, the neighborhood style living makes us very unique in northern Arizona.
So that's fantastic. We know that you have a dedicated facility that really focuses on the needs of those with cognitive impairment, various forms of dementias, Alzheimer's disease. We know that this is a place that really puts their energy and effort into individuals that are dealing with these types of issues. So that's fantastic because your staff really then does have a knowledge and a day-to-day understanding of the issues that these individuals are coping and dealing with, as well as their loved ones and family members, which we can't forget about. Because the informal family caregivers that have been helping care for their loved ones for so long before maybe placement comes into play is a part of this care team, and their feelings, thoughts, and needs need to be justified and addressed as well. So it's nice to see how your staff can work with the family, and you get that positive feedback in the form of the letters to where those loved ones really can see the positive effect that you have. We talk about the unique aspect of the social engagement of the community living, how we really focus on those common areas and involving members of the community to continue living a life. Now maybe a life that's slightly different and looks a little different than it did 10, 15, 20 years ago, but they're still actively engaged in living that life, which is what we're encouraged to hear. So it sounds like that then your own standards, your own expectations of how you perform are also paramount to making the Margaret T. Morris Center what it is. To say, well, the state may have minimum standards, but we're going to put our standards up here because we think there's value in having that oversight, in really keeping ourselves to a level that maybe regulators don't think we necessarily need to be at. And there's peace of mind and comfort for a family member knowing that you're going to take your efforts to a level that you aren't necessarily legislatively required to.
That's right. And we do hear about that a lot from family members.
Yeah. Well, say for families with a loved one who has memory loss, what do you think the most important needs for their loved one with memory loss may be? How do you address those most important needs for those family members when they come in?
I think realizing, for the family members, to realize where their family member is now as opposed to what they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Their life could be completely different. Their personality could be different. Their behaviors could be different. The words they use could be different. So acknowledging that and then creating a care plan designed around that, where they are now, is really, really important for family members to understand where their families are and then move forward with the Margaret T. Morris staff and create that care plan. Because it isn't about what they would have wanted or would have done 5 years ago. It's about what are they doing right now? Where are they in their diagnosis? So that's really important.
So really getting the staff and the family all on the same page.
Yes.
in a very inclusive process.
Yes.
Wonderful. So talk to me a little bit as well as about the difficulty in the role change that can be experienced for family members. Oftentimes you'll find, I'm a family caregiver myself, oftentimes you'll find yourself in a situation where you're caring for a parent or a spouse, for instance, and it's a very new role reversal for you. As an adult child helping take care of an adult parent, now you tend to take on more of the parenting type responsibilities and the stresses that go along with maybe the backlash of the care recipient who doesn't want to be parented by their child, or maybe the spouse who has been in a caregiver role for a very long time and now is almost more of a parental role rather than that spousal role. Talk to me about the difficulties in dealing with those transitions in those roles.
In some instances it is difficult, especially if someone doesn't have their living will and all of their desires of what they would want in case of, all written out, and everybody having that family meeting and everybody understanding what it is I want as I age. If that isn't in place, well then the Margaret T. Morris Center staff will meet with each individual family and have those dialogues, have those discussions, answer questions. If we can't find an answer, we'll go get it. So it's all about communication. It's all about support. It's all about listening. And that's what we're good at, and finding those resources to help that family so that they can move forward and get the best care for their family member.
Fantastic. And we know that oftentimes we find ourselves in a position of placement very unexpectedly, maybe, for our role as a family member. Maybe we never even thought about what a durable power of attorney is, or a living will, or what are 5 wishes, and things of this nature, until all of a sudden all of these questions are being thrown at us left and right in a medical care facility setting, and we realize very quickly we know very little about the aging process and maybe some of the associated documentation that is helpful to have in place and in order before a catastrophic health failure incapacitates your loved one to where maybe now they have cognitive impairment and they're unable to effectively express what their desires or wishes are.
That's right.
So I think it's important to let the community know that if you don't have some of these documents in place, or if you're unaware of what some of these documents are, maybe now is the time to begin that conversation with your loved ones. Maybe now is the time to have that family meeting and talk about what the desires and wishes for your future care are. So that way, if the unexpected happens, people aren't guessing and people aren't scrambling trying to figure out all the documents that need to be in place now. They actually could be in place before that catastrophic health emergency or that unexpected change in condition.
Right, and you're not making a panic decision. You're making an educated decision. We say that a lot. And we do presentations at the Susan J. Reams and at the Margaret T. Morris Center to help educate people. You know, we have attorneys come in, we have paralegals come in. So we're trying our best to educate people so that they are prepared. That, you know, people our age should have those papers in place. So you don't wait till the last minute. Don't wait till they're hospitalized. Get it done, have the dialogue with family, everybody understands, and then in the event that you have to make decisions like this, It's all laid out for you.
And the peace of mind and comfort as a family member, knowing that these are their decisions, that I'm not ad hoc making them for them. And boy,
Right.
I hope this is what they really wanted, because
Right.
we never took the time to have that conversation.
Yeah,
So
that's a hard place to be
that is a
in.
very difficult place to be in. So I would encourage you all, if you have questions about some of the documentation that may make this transition a little easier as we age, or if we have an unexpected health or medical emergency that pops up, maybe give a phone call to a valuable resource at the Area Agency on Aging, for instance, to talk about what some of the different products or paperwork that is out there and where you can access these documents. So if you transition to a place like Margaret T. Morris or Susan J. Ream facility, that you have all your ducks in a row, so to speak, and you're not making those emotionally charged decisions in a stressful and difficult environment. Because oftentimes those emotionally charged decisions we look back upon and think, maybe I would have made some of those decisions a little
Exactly.
differently if I'd have had the time to really think it through.
Absolutely, that's so true.
We also know that there's promises oftentimes that we will make to our loved ones, whether it be our parents or grandparents, that we're never going to put you in an assisted living facility. We're never going to put you in a home, so to speak.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit about those promises that get made in life, and maybe about our perspectives of assisted living and nursing home style living, the used to be versus the today?
Right, and there are people that do make those promises. You hear that, I promised him that I would never, put him in a nursing home. You do hear that. And all we can do is ask them, just educate yourself. It's so important. Whether it's just going to the Margaret T. Morris Center or all the memory care communities, go educate yourself. Talk to the doctors. Ask questions. Do as much research and education as you can so that you don't make that panic decision. You make an informed decision. That is my mantra. I say that all the time. Whenever I meet somebody and I hear a story like that, I encourage them, do your research. Get your family involved. If there's family here, get them involved and do as much research and provide yourself with as much education as you possibly can. It might change that attitude because it might be in the best interest of the loved one to go into a community, because that caregiver just simply can't take care of that person any longer like they deserve to be cared for.
And life situations change.
That's right.
Oftentimes when those promises are made, they're made in days of good health, where both members of that family are doing very well functionally. And we may find 10, 15, 20 years down the line that not only is the care recipient not doing well, but quite possibly the caregiver themselves could be carrying themselves into a very poor health situation. And we have to be aware of that. Oftentimes a caregiver can stop thinking about their own self-care needs and real quickly become a care recipient themselves. And you have to ask yourself that question as a family caregiver. Am I keeping my loved one in the home for a promise that was made 20 years ago at the expense of my own personal health and well-being as well? Because if I put myself into the hospital, or if I put myself into a shorter than expected life expectancy because of a lack of self-care, who's going to take care of my loved one then?
And we provide a caregiver support group there. Mary Novar from the Alzheimer's Association volunteers her time twice a month, and she facilitates a caregiver support group. And she's a lovely individual with a lot of knowledge, so we're really blessed to have her.
Fantastic. So there are services available for those family members as well who maybe even aren't quite at that placement point, but are at the point to where they're realizing their role as a family caregiver is a larger role than maybe they expected or anticipated, and maybe now it's time to start talking to other people who are involved with caregiving as well, learning some tips and tactics to help get through the stressful events that will inundate our days.
That's right.
It will happen. Sooner or later, we're going to get to that point to where we feel like doing that Tarzan yell out the front door because we just don't know what to do with our frustration anymore.
That's right.
And having a support group or a workshop, having somebody to lean on in those times of struggle can be very valuable for that family caregiver and bringing that stress level down, bringing that anxiety level down, because we all know that we're a lot better caregivers when we're calm and patient And it's a lot easier to do that when we're not pulling our hair out because we have the support we need.
That's right. That's right.
We have an experienced perspective on the difficulty of the role change we talked about earlier when the children are now put into this role of a parent, almost, so to speak. Can you talk to me? Because I've seen a little of this happen before, to where sometimes those relationships can be strained or impacted because of that role reversal. But oftentimes we've seen that post-placement, for instance, if they're able to find placement in a facility such as the Margaret T. Morris Center, that role reversal can then dissipate, go away, and that bond in that relationship can then have a chance to heal and to go back to the way it was before.
Yes,
have you seen some of that?
Yeah, absolutely. We see it, we hear it. The pressure of being that power of attorney, making those hard decisions, can really weigh heavily on the individual, on the child, or whomever it is. But once they do kind of surrender and realize it's in the best interest of the loved one to go into a community such as the Margaret T. Morris Center, you're right. You watch that healing take place. You watch that daughter then get back into the relationship with her father, albeit most likely different because the father's in a different place, but still that you can just feel that relaxation come back on them. And then attending the support group can help work through those feelings of guilt, let them go, and get back to back into a relationship with the loved one.
So oftentimes we can find some peace and some comfort in knowing that everything isn't our responsibility.
Right.
As much as maybe we have made it our responsibility in this life, that there are valuable resources out there at our disposal that we can utilize to help maybe bring a sense of normalcy back into our lives, into our loved ones' lives, and really try to bring some of those stresses back down to where we can get back into enjoying our day-to-day aspects of our lives rather than waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning staring at the ceiling and going, now what do we have to do again today?
Yes.
Because that can dominate your life.
Or they're up at night,
taking care of the loved one all night long. So we encourage you, if you find yourself in a situation to where you would like to learn some more about what is my future, what are my plans, what is out there, what are the resources, is there a history of memory loss in my family, and what can I do to plan for if or when that happens in my life? We would say utilize the resources that are available to you at the Area Agency on Aging. For instance, you can call us at 877-521-3500, toll free, to ask us information about the resources that are available in your area. You can also give us a call and ask us about adult care services in the Margaret T. Morris Center and all of the different options that are available to you within your community, so you can feel the peace and comfort of knowing you are not alone in this process, that there are others that are navigating it currently right now, and they'll be more than happy to help you through this as well. Georgie, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today's show. Thank you so much. Please come back and join us again soon and let us know about all the exciting things that you are doing at the facilities, at the Margaret T. Morris Center and the Susan J. Ream facilities as well. Please continue to be an advocate for those that are aging within our communities and share the resources that we can all benefit from.
I will.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Once again, my name is Brandon Baxter, and I've had the pleasure of being your host today. This is Senior Moments. Bye-bye.